Good evening, students of GBC, Global Business Communication. This is the second part of our lecture this week. I expect it not to be too long because I just want to wrap up a discussion of the TED presentation platform and to talk about presentations in general, because that's what I would like you to do. In May, I'm going to ask you to submit presentations. Now, before I get into what I think as a junior or senior, what you need to focus on to do a good presentation, I want to talk about what's happening on Monday. So on Monday, we're going to try Zoom. And if you looked at the update and you watched the Tom Hanks thing, I'm not going to start again. There we go. That's a little bit better. I noticed that the voice wasn't coming through the speaker. Well, this is part of being good at presentations. Sometimes there's technical difficulties, but you just keep going anyway. Hold on a second. Okay, sorry about that. Now, hopefully you can hear me better. It's a little bit louder. This is an old headset, so there's a little bit of distortion sometimes. On Monday, what I want to do is have a live conversation, and this is kind of, I think I've adapted somewhat to the video lecture format. So even though I'm recording, sometimes you'll see me make mistakes and you'll see me do things that I probably shouldn't do, and that's part of what it's like when you that's what it should be like when you see a person, in real time. So maybe it's a good thing that I make mistakes and I forget to turn on my headset, because that maybe makes you pay attention to the lecture more. If I just do a perfect lecture and I just deliver the material with no distortion and no mistakes and everything goes completely smoothly, I think in a sense you are going to be less likely to follow along to what I'm doing. That's just one element of making things more personable. We'll see what happens in the future when we have robots presenting, and whether human beings pay attention to robots better or worse. My suspicion is that robots, when they're designed well enough, they're going to have to actually imitate, they're going to actually have to intentionally make mistakes in order to be more human, in order to be more attractive to their audience. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today. So what I need you to do, what is going on with this thing? What I need you to do is make a Zoom account. What I need you to do is make a Zoom account. So it's just an application. You can do it on your phone. You can do it on your tablet, whether it's an iPad or it's not. You can use your laptop. I'm probably going to use my laptop. I use a webcam for this, and I have my phone as well, so I have a choice of different devices. But you need to make a Zoom account. You need to send me an email about what your username is. Don't forget your password or anything. And you need to log in. You need to log in about 1:50 on Monday. Okay? Our regular scheduled class is at 2 o'clock. So please just come 10 minutes early. I didn't mean come. You know what I mean. Virtually, arrive virtually. And I'm going to invite you all to, basically a video conference, like a cloud meeting. I think that's the term. It's all the same thing. Some of you have already handed in, most of you have already handed in your assignments about the new media, and in terms of how you're trying to make your product seem distinctive to people, they come up with different names, right? Like Messenger or Kakao Talk, Well, it's all the same thing. They're all chat programs, right? It doesn't matter if it's Facebook Messenger or it's WhatsApp, WhatsApp is a clever twist on what's up. This is all just marketing in order to make it seem like I'm providing you with a service that's very different than everything else, and it's much better because it's WhatsApp and it's not Facebook. And there are elements, like I said, WhatsApp is better than Facebook Messenger because it's encrypted. So I just recently started using WhatsApp, but that's the reason I am, because I don't want Facebook to give my conversations to the highest bidder to sell my information to somebody else. So we're going to try Zoom. I was going to try YouTube, but YouTube doesn't really provide the interaction that I want. I want to be able to see you and have you talk. And because this is an 8-person class, we can do this. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the 20 people that I have in conversation too. I know there's a couple students that are in multiple classes, so we might do the YouTube thing in that class. We'll see how it goes. If it works well, I might try to do it with 20. That's a lot though. So as I said, you're the guinea pigs. So Monday, this weekend, please make your Zoom account if you don't have one already. Send me an email with your username. I'm going to invite you. I'm going to log on and be ready like around 1:50, like I said. So join me and your classmates, and hopefully we'll have some fun. It's an experiment, what can I say? I might record what we do. I hope that's okay with all of you. If you have a problem with it for some reason, then when you send me your username and your email, just tell me. But give me a reason. Like if you have no reason, then I'm just going to record it, because there's a lot of professors and students and classes that are having difficulties with this. And if we manage to do it well, then it's valuable to the university to have perhaps a video clip of what we're doing, just to demonstrate how well it goes. If it doesn't go well, then I'm not going to share the video with anybody, okay? So that's the plan. So 2 o'clock is when we're going to start the class, and 1:50 please log in, and I will invite you, and we'll set up a cloud meeting on Zoom, okay? Also, this weekend is our makeup lecture. So I didn't tell you this earlier in the week, which is, you should be aware of it, but I think a lot of students aren't, because as I said before in other lectures, is it Friday? I know it's Friday, but it feels like Tuesday, or it could be Saturday, or it could be Monday. Everything's messed up. So I'm going to open the lecture tomorrow night, and I'm going to keep it open until next Friday. So it's going to overlap with next week. We have no video lecture next week because we're going to do the Zoom thing. And I did initially say I was going to do a video lecture also, but I'm not, because we're going to have a makeup lecture. So there'll be one video lecture, which is the makeup lecture this week, or next week. And that will have it'll just be one longer lecture, just one shot. And we will have the live cloud meeting, Zoom cloud meeting on Monday. And that's how next week is going. Okay? So that's what's happening with this class. Now, the TED presentations I asked you to watch. There was a link to Tom Thumb, and I'm not going to be able to say his name right, Louis Schwarzenberg. The first presentation was in Australia, and the second one was in Vancouver, if I'm not mistaken. And they're totally different presentations. And I want to discuss with you just things to consider. And I told you already, I want you to do a presentation. I want you to, who knows what things are going to be like in the future. Maybe the coronavirus is going to stay around for a long time. Maybe it's not. But even if it goes away, there's going to be after effects of it and the ability to give a video lecture, which I'm improving. I hope you think so too, that I'm getting better at it, and other professors are getting better at it too. This skill is going to be valuable going forward, because it's just going to, I mean, let's be honest, it's an environmentally friendly way of giving a lecture too. Rather than traveling to everybody, I mean, we do need to socialize and we need to interact and we need to do that sometimes, but we also have this option now, and now that people are more comfortable with it, we have this option of doing lectures and presentations, you know, digitally, recording or live, through the networks that are available to us. And I don't think that's going to go away. We already had it, and we were already making use of it. But now I think people, it's going to just, the coronavirus is just going to drive this point home, which is like, okay, it's not as good in some ways as being, and that's why I talked to you about Marshall McLuhan. It's not the same. It's not as intimate. Sometimes you need that physical proximity, but sometimes you don't. And if you have the ability to do it, and you do it well and effectively, then you can use that option when you need to, or when it's convenient. So I want to talk to you about how things can be improved. In a certain sense, it's just a matter of just being more natural. Like at first when I talked to my webcam, I think you could probably tell 2 months ago that I was just not being myself. I was just sort of robotic and stiff and unfamiliar, and you know, I think I'm getting used to, I mean, I've done this for, I don't know, 30 hours or something, and after you talk to yourself for 30 hours in a room with lights, I made a mistake as well. The lighting, just put the light here. See, I don't even care anymore that I make mistakes. I'm just going to keep going and fix them as I go along. But, you know, when I tried to make a video 2 months ago, I would have deleted everything and just started over again and lost my place and been nervous. And I always tell my students, you know, everybody's nervous when they give presentations. Everybody, if you don't feel nervous, then congratulations, because you're a special person. You know, stage fright and nervousness and hesitation and embarrassment in front of crowds is, for some people, it's a phobia, you know? And for most people, it's not comfortable. And some people, it's terrifying. I was never a person who was good at speaking in front of people. And I can remember the first time that I went up in front of a classroom that was big. Like the British and American culture class that I taught originally had something like 25 people. But then Chungnam decided to make one section out of multiple sections. And then, so one term I went in there, and I knew there was a lot of students because I saw the roster, but it was something like 85 students. And I came in the door, and the classroom was just packed with people. And it was so noisy and stuff. And the first thing I thought is like, oh my God, nobody's going to be able to hear me. Nobody's going to listen to me. And if they decide to riot or stampede, like, they'll just crush me, and that'll be the end of me. How am I going to control this huge group of people? And it's tough. Students sit at the back and talk to each other and hide under their hats and sleep and stuff. But if you've never had a lecture, if you've been teaching classes of 20 or maybe 25 students, and then you walk into a classroom that's 3 or 4 times bigger, it's a shock. And in a completely different way, when I started doing my lectures, when there was nobody, and there was just my phone sitting there, you know, wedged between a couple books in my classroom with no students there, I was not really able to talk normally, or I didn't know what to say, and I didn't know how to deliver my material because I couldn't ask questions to anybody, and there were no faces paying attention or anything. So I just felt like that. I just in my mind, I guess I just thought this is unnatural, and I don't know what to do. So my point here is that there's no substitute for experience. So no matter what advice I'm going to give you, when you look at those TED presenters, no matter which presentation you watch, those people have presented many, many times over. They are experts. They have their own style. They have their own topics and expertise, but they don't get to do a TED presentation. They don't, as I told you, they don't get paid. So like they don't volunteer themselves and their time and put themselves out on a limb to do a TED presentation unless they are already confident that they can do a good job. So those people are on a different level than me and you. I'm in between. You can call me an intermediate presenter if you want. I won't be insulted. They are experts, and probably all of you are amateurs because you just haven't spent enough time. You can think of it like a pilot. If you have 30 hours of flight time, you're only allowed to pilot a tiny little plane, and nobody will give you insurance, and you can't pilot anything bigger than like a 4-seater or a private airplane. Once you get 100 hours or 200 hours, you can fly something bigger. And when you have 1,000 hours of flight time, they let you fly a big airplane where they know that you didn't crash for 1,000 hours, so you're good. Not that presenting is like a pilot, but you know what I mean. So we're talking about TED. I mean the title of this lecture is Platforms, but specifically we're talking about TED, right? How do you make an effective presentation, and what gives you that extra something? So first of all, how do you make an effective presentation? You practice. You prepare your topic, you organize it, and you deliver it effectively without hesitation and too many mistakes, and with confidence, right? That's basic, though. That I'm going to say being effective is basic level. So if you're going to, not basic level, that is what you need to get to the next level. So some people are not able to do that, so their presentations just flop. So you got to have that together. You got to have your organization, you got to have your presentation, you have to prepare properly. If you have material, it has to look good and all that kind of stuff. You have to invest the time, and then you have to have the confidence and the skill to speak and deliver it in a way that's persuasive and effective in terms of how you speak. And then you have a good presentation. Basically, you have a good presentation. But since you're seniors, juniors and seniors, what I want to say is, how do you get it above? What gives it that extra something that makes it one of the best or one of the better presentations in a group of presentations? When you go to a speech contest and you're up against all these other students, you usually, like in my case, I did speech contests, and I won my class multiple times. But every time I went to the gym against the other classes, because I represented my class multiple times as the first or second best speech, but I never survived the grade. I never survived the school-wide speech because the representatives from the other classes beat me. So what did I need to do in order to get that competitive edge, the extra something? What did I need to do to get that speech to the point where I could be chosen to represent my school and then go to the district competition and go up against the other schools? I never was able to do it, and quite frankly I didn't want to, because it was scary enough in front of the school. I was okay in front of my class, but I was pretty scared when I was in front of the whole school. I remember that very well. I can't remember what my topic was actually, which is weird. But regardless, that's the kind of thing that you need, that little extra something in order to make your speech stand out. Okay, so that competitive edge, and I like to use sports analogies when I talk about this with students too, and I don't talk about it with the freshmen or anything, because they're just trying to get comfortable with the basic skills of presentation, and they don't need to look beyond that. But once you get a hold of what you need to do, and you're organized and you're ready to do it, and everybody else is too, right? So you're in a group with is a contest, or you're presenting your idea against other companies, and other companies are trying you're trying to win money from the government, subsidy. You're trying to get a promotion, or you're trying to, bid for something. Like there's a company that, they're looking for companies that can do a certain thing, or you're trying to win a client over from another company, whatever it is. What is it that can give you that certain something just in the presentation? There's other things involved in those situations too, but just in terms of the presentation, what can you do to give yourself an advantage? Well, I have to say, one of the reasons that I love the Tom Thumb TED presentation is because, quite frankly, he's got a unique personality, and he has a unique job. Being a beatboxer, as he says, is a pretty rare thing. It's rare to be a beatboxer, and it's even more rare, or rarer, to be successful and make money. But he has done that. So this is why he gives his presentation. The basic purpose of his presentation is to demonstrate that he has succeeded where most people don't think there is any chance of success. So first of all, you need a purpose. I say this all the time. That's a basic thing though. We're going back to how to make an effective presentation. You need to have a reason for doing your presentation. If there's no purpose or reason, then your presentation is not going to be very effective. That's it. So his purpose is to demonstrate how you can be successful, and to advertise essentially for himself and for the whole community of beatboxers. So he's unique, and he has a certain purpose that's very evident from the very beginning, which he does directly communicate to you. Then, in addition to that, he's very humorous, and he decides to make his presentation. The content of his presentation is organized, but it's organized in sort of like a storytelling, narrative kind of format. So he tells everything. He states his purpose and everything, and he gets everybody. He has an introduction, and he gets everybody. He kind of sucks everybody in with all these like demonstrations and stuff, and then he starts to sort of weave everything together in his own, musically illustrated story, and it all seems to just fit together organically, coherently, and to present this concept that the beauty of it, I think, is it's beatboxing is something that mostly it's a very niche sort of skill that appeals to people who are in their high school or university, younger people. But if you look carefully at the audience, you can see there's a wide range of people listening to his presentation. There's old people, there's young people, there's middle-aged people, there's all kinds of people, and it's not a young crowd by any means. It's a very diverse crowd of men and women of all ages. And he gets a standing ovation from everyone, from grandmas and grandpas right up to 20-year-olds. And that is an indication that you've done a pretty amazing job. If you can take an idea or a concept or a niche or a profession that doesn't normally appeal to everyone, and then deliver a presentation that gets everybody interested, that's, I don't know what criteria you want to use to measure a successful presentation, but to me, that's the ultimate measure of being effective, is the fact that the response was so positive at the end, that everybody was convinced that what he is doing and what he has done is great. And at the beginning, there really was scattered applause, and people weren't really being pulled along with him because he intentionally just did, the typical beatbox sort of noise-making routine. But by the end, he had everybody convinced that he was a super talented, successful person that should be compensated financially and paid for making strange noises with his mouth. Okay, so that's my explanation of him. The second one is Louis Schwartzberg, and he's a very fascinating individual. He's just a very careful and meticulous producer and director, and he does all these cool things with his camera. Like, he just puts a camera and focuses on something that's happening in nature, and he just lets the camera record for like 100 days, and then he speeds up the camera so you can see what happens over 100 days. All this cool stuff, all this technological stuff. He doesn't speak particularly well. He doesn't pronounce his words and sounds very well, but it doesn't matter. Everything he says is scripted, obviously. He's reading, but his delivery is slow and careful, and everything that he says everything he says is very condensed. He condenses everything into these concepts like slow and fast and big and small. And then his organization is superb as well. And he just orients everything he says around these incredible, feats of recording and technology, and explains them, in terms of opposites and extremes and dynamics, which allows you to get a point of view and a perspective on life that normally you just couldn't have, because it's just not possible for the human beings to see things that are that big, that slow, that fast, or that small. And so he's revealing, he's informing, he's instructing, right? And he's amazing. He's amazing, but he's showing us amazing things that we couldn't imagine, and it changes our perspective on how we think about our lives. And that in itself, that surprise and revelation of what our existence really looks like, in itself is a creative element. But the way that he delivers it is also important too. So in a sense, they're completely different approaches, but they've both, using their particular strategies, have delivered information to us that we accept and are impressed by. And that is what you have to do if you really want to have a presentation that is among the best. When you get to that level and you compete and you show your ability at that level, that's what you have to do. So you have to be, you need to incorporate these elements. Once you get the basic elements of being effective in, then you need to attempt to be different, be unique, make your presentation stand out. You can use whatever you want to do this. Humor, be more dynamic, move around and have more things, interactive things, and make things happen, show more energy. You can surprise people and shock people to make them more interested. You can be critical of something. You can be informative, instructive. You can show something practical, like this is how you do something, and this is what you can take this home with you, and you can do this yourself. This is what I'm doing. You didn't think you could do it, but I'm showing you how to do it. So now you can too. You can persuade people, of course. You can be selling something, and you can do the Steve Jobs, the master of persuasion sort of presentation. And of course, you can try to be entertaining. If that involves humor, that's fine. But you can be entertaining by showing people your talent, whatever that is. So these elements are kind of the extra things that once you have everything else in place will make the difference between you getting, doing well and doing very well. So that's the makeup class for this. That's not the makeup class, excuse me. This is part 2. I got ahead of myself. This is part 2. The makeup class is on its way, and I'll be doing that. I'll be recording that this weekend, so there's no rush because that'll be up in a couple days, and you'll have until next Friday to log in to get your credit for that. And please send me an email with your Zoom ID so that we can have a meeting. I'm really excited to just see some faces and talk to real people and not just pieces of plastic and metal that are staring at me. So get your stuff ready for Monday. If you can send me your Zoom ID by Sunday, that would be appreciated. I'll get everything ready. And then I will see you at 1:50 p.m. on Monday. Okay. Have a good weekend. Talk to you soon.